Mr. Slee said he couldn't make it. And Ms. Russell said that she wouldn't be able to make it because of work. Well, I've got 6 o'clock. Appreciate all of you coming out tonight, and we'll open the meeting, and we'll dispense with the roll call. We know who we have here, and we have a quorum. You had a chance to review the minutes, and if not, take a moment to do so. If there's any corrections or to these minutes. If there are no corrections to these minutes, then we'll let them stand approved as presented. Move on with the officer elections. We will, yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to leave the officers as they are.
We have a motion. Second, we have a second. Actually, got Ms. Atwood first, to leave all of the officers as they are. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All officers do remain as they've been. Moving on to old business, we have ADA changes, updates to the courthouse. Would you like to address that, Mayor?
Yes, sir. Some of the changes that need to be done, we need to add new signs that have braille on them next to the offices in the courthouse. The back door still needs to have the power unit put in it, with the button outside to make it, so it's a power door, make it ADA compliant. We did go and measure the ramp and everything, and it does meet ADA requirements, and if we get that power door, that should take out any issue of having to back up when they open that back door. And then once we get inside, it's not really a big issue as far as the doors are going to be open to the offices, but one of the ADA requirements is if you have a round top doorknob, that you put lever style doorknobs on there instead, so we will transition to that as well. A lot of other things are already in the courthouse, the elevator's already in, so that helps ADA compliance there. So we don't have a whole lot to do, but we do have some things we need to do.
So are we looking into getting the power door just on our list, or?
Yeah, we've looked into pricing in other areas, other places where you have to get them under 5 pounds per square inch opening pressure. So there's other places where we've changed some of the openers on there to get it under 5 pounds. That one we tried and tried and tried, and we can't get it under 5 pounds. We're going to do a power door to get it open.
Anyone have any other comments on that for the mayor? All right, moving on, ADA compliance for county buildings.
And most of again, a lot of the things that already been done, ramps into various buildings. Now, some things are gonna have to be changed. Again, going from a round doorknob to a lever type doorknob. At the administration building, we've already went in and put the signs next to the door. There's a requirement that you have to have a sign saying what the office is, and we put braille on it. It has to be within 48 and 60 inches from the floor, and it has to be on a certain location next to the door, so we have got those in place. We did, with the openers and closers that you installed in the door, we actually had to replace those because we couldn't get them adjusted under 5 pounds, and they were been there for years and years and years. So we replaced those, and now we're able to get those under 5 pounds per square inch, so we don't think we're gonna have to do a power door or anything at the administration building. We will have to put a different ramp in the front of it, because the one that's there, that brick ramp doesn't meet the requirements for ADA. It doesn't have the correct fall on it, so we will have to do a different ramp there in front of the building. And we're gonna have to go back, which we've already looked into doing, going back and restripe some of the parking places. We're gonna have, with the number of parking spaces we had, we're gonna have to designate one spot at least as van accessible parking, which has a different measurement requirement. So when we restripe the parking lot, we're gonna go ahead and do that as well. Most of the other buildings, I'd already, whether the grandfathered in, as there haven't been changes or anything like that, or they've already been done. And most of the buildings are accessible to the public. The senior citizen center is already ADA compliant. The CJC over here, we're gonna have to do some work on those doors when you come in, but other than, once they go inside after that, you really don't have access unless it's court day, then those doors are open. So we have went down there and looked. A lot of it's just signage, doorknobs, those kind of things, no major changes.
Any questions in regard to that? All right, we'll move on. The streetscape update pertaining to the courthouse.
Well, other than the landscaping, the streetscape project is complete, and that should begin. I spoke to them, they were scheduled to come back and start planning in the second week of November. That'll get them inside the TDOT planning season. Then after that's planted, the streetscape project is complete. Really the only thing I believe, and you got it down here later, so I guess we can talk about it later, is some changes there in front of the courthouse regarding the bricks that were having to be taken up.
Any questions in regard to that? Okay, we'll move on. Update on county properties.
I have sent a list to Mr. Beller, and he's checked it over, and I've also worked with Shelley Jones over here, the clerk and master. A lot of the properties we've had, some of them for years and years, that we got in tax sales. We did create that committee for resale of land in February 2019. There were some deed issues here and there. We think we got straightened out. We're going to send that to the committee for resale of land and try to sell a lot of those properties. There are a couple of tracts that we will not be able to sell right now because we don't have any deed to one of them. And not only that, they're on breezy end, and if you take each tract individually, they're not big enough to do anything with. So the thought right now is we need to get that put in the county's name legally, and then maybe go into the planning commission or something and try to combine those two lots, make it bigger, and that'll be more marketable, because once you combine those two lots, you can actually put a house or something on it, and it should be more marketable, bring a better price. And the people have contacted us interested in those two parcels. They're only interested in both of them if they can get them together. They're not interested in one individual.
Mr. Jewell, have you suggested a time for the committee to meet that reviews the properties?
Was I supposed to?
I thought you said the 29th.
You had suggested the
I suggested 29th, that actually got taken up by something else, so we're gonna look at it, and I gotta work with Mr. Beller to make sure he's available as well. Thursday's usually his busiest days, because that's when they have court in Carthage, so we're gonna work with him, try to get date scheduled. We were looking sometime in October, but it may be sometime into November.
Just let the members of that committee know when you choose the date.
Yes, sir.
I don't think they have any officers at this time. I don't recall this meeting.
They haven't met. It's really just an as needed basis, and they haven't met. Once they do, they'll elect officers, and really their charge is to go through and set a price for all the properties. And we do have kind of the estimate of what's due as far as fees and everything, and interest and everything due on the properties, which they will continue to collect interest all the way up to the day they sell. But they still have to set a price that's required under the statute, and put a notice in the newspaper. And it's basically a fill in the blank form that CTAS was charged with coming up with. We do have that, and I've kind of filled in the information as far as the properties. The only thing it's not filled in is sale date, and then the information as far as what the price is for the properties. Once that's put in the newspaper, it has to be advertised for 2 weeks. Bid bills have to be submitted to the mayor's office. We have a bid opening, just like if it was a RFP or an RFQ or something like that, and then highest bid gets the property. If none of them come to the set price, well, then the committee can reconvene and agree to take the price closest to what they had said.
I am. Who are the other members?
It's you, Mr. Ford, I think Linda Sue Johnson, and Bill Ferguson. I think there's 4 members. That's determined by statute, 4 members of the legislative body.
And what would you term the name of that committee?
It's called a Committee for Resale of Land.
Very correct. Anything else on the county properties from anyone? Moving on to new business here with courthouse repairs. The windows, have we, where do we stand on the windows?
Well, the windows, we'll have to get that historical structure report done. That's been suggested, highly suggested, I would put it, by the historic preservation specialist for the Greater National Regional Council and a staff worker for the Tennessee Historical Commission. I haven't been able to put that together as quickly as I'd like, given that we were having some issues with the courthouse, and we've had 3 or 4 grants that come up and trying to get things submitted for CARES Act, and I'm trying to assist my staff to try to get some of those things done. We've had some sickness in the office, and it's kind of put us behind on some projects. So, and that's kind of a little bit more in depth than I originally thought it was going to be, trying to put that together. So I haven't got that done yet, but I will try to get it together and as soon as I can. And what that would do is basically put down an RFP to get quotes back from somebody coming in doing that report for you. So it'll have to be just like a bid opening or anything else, because I don't know what that price is going to be. It'll be something that's actually more in depth, just doing a structural report or some kind of building assessment. It's more in depth because they look at the history of the building and come up with a report, because they try to get it. Your standards is what you're going to try to preserve it to, comes based on the historical nature of the building and any changes that's been done. So, like I said, it's a lot more in depth than I originally thought, and some of the documents I'm trying to base it on are from other states. I don't really have a good example from Tennessee that I've been able to find, so I'm trying to have to cobble things together from California and Virginia and other states.
You tell them we have a ghost.
Well, I'll leave that up to them to determine.
You get a discount.
I've been told that we did, after we go through this process, and if for some reason it's decided to restore the windows that we've got, that there's something you can put to keep certain types of rays out that makes a huge difference, especially with the sun.
Yeah, there's things you can put on it now if you can historically do that. The Department of Interior does have standards for restoring historical windows and that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not an expert on it. I haven't read them all over yet, but there are things you can put on it to try to reduce UV light coming in to make it more energy efficient. But like I said, the Department of Interior really wants you to preserve those windows. And yes, you can put some in there that look period accurate, but they really want that. If it's 1905 glass, they want 1905 glass to stay in the building if you can keep it that
That's the
way.
whole idea of historic preservation listing, is that you're keeping a piece of history, and you change everything to make it look like it, so you just have Disney World. You see, Disney World looks like an old town from 1880s, but it's all flashy and made new. And so they want you to preserve as much original as you can. And you can take the old window and make it work, you have to apply some layer to the thing that they approve of, and that's still better than putting a new window in.
You would want something that would come off later as you kept the old windows going forward too, that would make it look bad over time. Oh, we appreciate your efforts on that and understand what you're dealing with there. Anyone else got any questions for the mayor in regard to the windows, or have any comments? Okay, moving on to the flooring. We've had some water problems with the floor.
Yeah, we had a pipe burst in the ladies' room. It's actually been capped off. It didn't go to anything. Just over years, it eventually had rusted a hole in it, and actually it had enough water pressure behind it that it cut a hole in the wall and came out on the floor, and pretty much was running out the back door, went all the way up. If you go into the courthouse now, they had to take the flooring up all the way to right when you get past the downstairs courtroom, and then the wall kind of comes in to where you go to Kim Taylor's old office. Where that wall comes in and the hallway narrows up, everything from there back to the tile and everything that's in the back half has been taken up. Once we got it up, the insurance company had someone come in checking for asbestos. They said the laminate flooring that had been there for years and years was still under what was there previously. And it was 20% asbestos. Half the flooring was already taken up. And myself and Mr. Salee, given that, decided to go ahead and take the rest of it up. We have gotten or asked for some quotes for replacing it with pre-finished hardwood floors, and we're also going to compare that to a wood-looking laminate. I think he did send something to me a little bit earlier, right before this meeting started, and just generally the laminate that looks wood is going to be roughly 7,000. Let me get the actual quote here. Approximately $7,146.64. And then the pressure-treated hardwood, it's going to be $12,514.46. We did get a thing from the insurance company earlier today. They valued the repairs at $22,000 something plus dollars. The work that's been done by Service Master to dry the building out and everything was about half that, so that check's going to be sent to Service Master to pay for their services, which will leave us about $11,000 something dollars. So that'll almost cover the price for doing this flooring. And some of this, Cliff said his guys can do as far as preparing the lower levels of it, try to get that done, and then have somebody actually come in that's professional and maybe put in the flooring itself so it's done better than what we can do it. So we're going to try to save every penny we can, but the thought was to kind of go back with that pressure-treated hardwood because that'll give it more historical accuracy, and it would just look a lot better than putting laminate or something back on there. And half of it was already destroyed anyway, so we figured go ahead and do it. Try to do it right while we're in there and get it done correctly. We also, when we took up the rest of that flooring, there was 2 or 3 other places where the floor was starting to sag that they're going to go in and repair and try to get that done so that we don't have to deal with it in the future. If you walk through there, you notice when you get around some of those air conditioning units, some of the floor would sag. So they're going in there and repairing that, and then we're going to repair the rest of the floor and hopefully be in there as soon as we can. But right now with building materials, I don't know when we're going to be back in there.
Hardwood flooring or something that simulates that sounds like a...
Well, we wanted to get 2 prices. We wanted to get just kind of an idea of what we're looking at, not only with the pressure-treated hardwood, but some kind of laminate to go back in there too. I would rather put down the pressure-treated hardwood and do it right, because it'll last. If we take care of it, it'll last. It'll be here long after we're gone.
Yeah.
Do you need an opinion from us, or are you just all right with us with general agreement, or?
Well, right now, like I said, that's the quote we got sent as far as the laminate and the pressure-treated hardwood. If the committee would prefer to go with hardwood, because we probably will have to do a budget amendment or something on that to the county buildings budget to include that amount in there. So if the committee is willing to vote on that, right now as far as giving your recommendations, as far as you want to go back with laminate that looks like wood, or would you rather go back with pre-treated, or pre-finished, I'm sorry, pre-treated, pre-finished
You've
hardwood?
been saying pressure treated,
Yeah,
but you mean pre-finished.
I had my mind on something else.
Pre-finished, I
Yeah,
believe.
pre-finished, yeah, I had my mind on some other
New,
project.
I had never heard of before.
No, that's trying
Do you want to make a motion to that effect? That we suggest that we possibly use the pressure,
Pre-treated.
Would you like to make that motion?
Pre-finished.
Right.
Pre-finished. I would make the motion that we go back with pre-finished flooring. It's more historically accurate and it should hold up to the traffic.
I'll second.
Mr. Burton, second. All in favor of going with the pre-finished hardwood floor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that we will go with the pre-finished hardwood floors. Mayor. Moving on to the brick pads.
We did get replacement bricks for the ones that were damaged and lost over here as part of the Streetscape project. Those are at the county's recycling building at PowerCon. The thought is that we're going to go kind of where those bricks are that now in front of the courthouse, between where the Streetscape ended and the courthouse itself. Go in there and cut out individual bricks here and there and then replace them with the engraved bricks and try to put everything back in front of the courthouse. So once we have, if anybody knows the name of somebody that does that work, if you could pass it on to me so we can get some quotes on getting that done, but that's the thought right now is, we looked at other ideas, but it seemed like what fit with more of the original purpose of doing that was to try to get everything there in front of the courthouse. There are some areas, if you go over and look, that's cracked and everything, it needs to be repaired anyway, so we figured we just, while we're doing all that, let's go ahead and take some bricks out here and there and replace them with the engraved bricks and try to get them all back in front of the courthouse.
Sounds good. Anyone have any comment in regard to that?
Well, we did look at it quite a bit, and there's area, if we need more room to the sides of that area that could be filled in as well, but that would be more costly because you'd have to pour concrete in there and buy plain bricks to go back into it as well. This seemed like the most logical solution without having a lot of expense in it. Those areas that are dirt will get landscaping. I think when we put the shrubs and flowers and things like that in there, we're not going to have to move the fence or do anything else other than landscaping, and it'll look very nice. I think we'll get through it.
Sounds good.
There's some areas around the monument there that's kind of low. Maybe can you get them maybe to up a little level where water will stand, water stands?
Would that be possible, Mayor?
I don't know how possible it will be, there's one or two rows right up to that monument that they had already taken up and replaced, so if you go higher, then you're creating a trip hazard.
Problem is trying to take those up, they're very brittle. And, you know, you'd probably break some of them trying to get them up, or, you know.
We had, the name I'll give you is Bill Lambert. We had two bricks that we had ordered, and one we had left part of the name, was a big one, left part of the name off, and another one we had misspelled the name. And both people had notified us that they're already in place. And I said, first chance we give, we'll replace them. And they said it for several years, and they kept calling me and said, when are you going to replace all the bricks? So I was worried about doing it. When Bill Landers came right, I called him, and he does the kind of work. He works at VA now, but he used to have his own brick business, and he just cut it right out and put it back in with no trouble at all. Now, I don't know. And then another time,
He was teaching masonry out at CGA. I'm not
two
sure
rows that broke off close to where the bell is, and I called him, he fixed those too. Same thing, he was pointing at. It might be easier to hire an individual as opposed to maybe a company or something. But I'll give you his number. I may even have it in my cell phone, but I'll give you his number. Very dependable. He'd have to do it on weekends because I think he works at the VA, unless he's retired right now, but he can do anything like that. So he might give you a better estimate and an idea. And he might tell you, we can replace this section for so much and whether it's worth it or not. I know he can put bricks in. I know he can do that. He did it for us.
You need any action from us, just the general?
Probably what I would suggest doing is we could either get oral quotes depending on what the price is, because once we get under that 10,000, as far as my spending power, it's kind of varied. We don't really have anything set in place like some other counties and everything do, but I try to follow, there is a state law out there that has, I think, from 0 to 3,000, you don't have to get any quotes. From 3,000 and 10,000, they want you to get 3 oral quotes. From 10,000 to 25,000, they want you to get 3 written quotes. I prefer just trying to get written quotes anyway, so we might put together a request for proposal, put it out, get quotes back on it, and then take it out of that. But like I said, if you know anybody, a vendor that does that work, please send it on to us. We'll make sure they get that document so they'll be able to bid on the project.
Any other questions or comments in regard to the bricks? Moving on then to other business, I have a question for you, Mayor. The election building over here, how is it coming on straightening the deed out to that?
We found out that there apparently is no recorded deed for that building. The tax assessor's data has it that it came to the Board of Education on January 1st, 1900. What more than likely happened, and we've seen this in other scenarios, once the courthouse, the second courthouse burnt down in 1904, nobody came back and re-recorded the deed. So we've seen that in several other properties, that it was there before, it burnt down, nobody re-recorded the deed. So Mr. Miller's opinion is, first, the school board has to vote to transfer, be willing to transfer it to the county. County has to be willing to accept, and then they'll probably have to do a quick claim deed or something to get that into the county's name.
Does the school board plan to move forward with that?
We just, sent back today, they actually got that opinion from Mr. Beller today. I did copy Dr. Satterfield on that. I don't know if that'll be added to the school board. I didn't get any feedback from him on it, but at this point, it's not really that pressing if we do it now or November, however it works out. But like I said, we did find that out today, so that's kind of what we need to do.
Good. Anybody else got any comments in regard to that? Any other business from anybody? Anybody think of anything else?
Are y'all still planning on tearing down that house across from the post office?
We would have torn it down already, but given all the construction and everything, one of the pieces of equipment the county was going to have to rent, somebody had rented it, damaged it. Now the rental company's not sure if they want to put the money into it to fix it. So Mr. Salih was going to call around and see if there's any contractors here that have equipment to maybe come out and tear it down. Mr. Buckmaster has contacted me about the possibility of using it as a burn exercise if the state will sign off on everything, but I don't know if he wants to update on that. We had an initial conversation about it, but at this time there was nothing more in depth.
I had contacted Dennis Wolf at the fire marshal's office, and Dennis Mulder, he had sent me a precedence from Dennis Wolf from MTS. Says we have to do a quick little study, it's not all that bad. All of the rules for the scenarios if we're gonna do a fire training exercise, and the interior crew, the RIC crew, all of them have to have certified training officers. I've got those lined up from other counties to do that. It's just a question of going through the survey is gonna be an asbestos survey. That's what they're gonna want. And we were gonna do that actually for a new fire suppression system that we looked at, and because we couldn't get all the studies done in time, we actually just went ahead and built an 8x8 shack down there at Fire Hall and set it on fire. Now, there's actually 4 buildings in the county people want us to burn, so I got lots of choices.
This would be a good way to take care of this if you chose to do this.
We went up there and looked, there's no real exposures, the metal building's far enough away, the electricity's already gone, we're aware of one well that we would have to cover. Even off the back side, there's not any real exposure besides what looks to be another abandoned home that's grown up in the woods, and it's not that close. I don't know that we could completely burn it up, but we could sure take care of a lot of it. It's just gonna go through that, get that study done and everything. That won't happen in the next month or two.
Well, it would be good to proceed, I think, in that direction.
2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good, get that.
What do you think, Mayor, would be to go on and try to proceed in that direction for that?
We can if you want. That was one of the properties that was going to go to the committee for resale of land. So if you're going to wait to use it as a burn exercise, do we want to go ahead and just try to sell it as is? Or do you want to pull it off the list and use it as a burn exercise and then put it on the next batch?
That's what I'd rather do, because unless somebody may buy it, may sit there for 2 years.
Yes, I agree.
Don't wait on us to, again, the asbestos study and some of the other things go along with it may actually prevent us from doing it. So I would see, like I said, I've got plenty to burn if I need to. I would not wait on the fire department getting approval if it ends up having to be sold in the next 2 or 3 months. My suggestion would be go ahead and sell it. Don't wait on the fire department.
But I know the committee had talked about it in the past, Mr. Oliver just restated that we sell it with as is, and it might be there looking exactly like that for the next 30 years. You know, it would be good for us to set an example of cleaning it up before we sell it, and
Well, it would certainly bring more if it were cleared off.
and it would bring more. Do you want just to let the committee decide on that when they meet, or?
No, you can give your feedback right now. If it's your opinion that you'd rather go ahead and tear it down or burn it, whatever, before we sell it, then we can do that. Just make sure we pull it off the list and get that done. And then we got other properties that are coming up that are going past their 1-year redemption period. We got other properties that probably the next, 4 or 5 months, we'll probably sell those too. We just put it on the next batch.
And you say you have others that you could use. I think if we could get to the point that we could go ahead and tear it down before you can get all that done, I would say proceed with tearing it down, because it'll bring more, and that way we know they're either gonna have to
I
build
think it's a
something
good,
back or
I
you're.
think it leaves a good impression on the public to see the county doing something.
Right.
Let's see us being proactive.
Have we taken action
We
on
would have
this?
torn it down already, but we just
Yes,
couldn't.
we
get the
already
equipment to
have.
do it.
Yeah, I
The
think
scrub
we
place,
Yes.
scrub tool?
Yeah, I think we already
Yeah,
decided.
we've already said tear it down.
Yeah, we voted to
See
do it.
that?
Right, and that's where we tried to get the piece of equipment to do it, but
Right.
it tore up, and then they said they were gonna fix it, and a couple months later said, no, we don't know what we're gonna do, and Mr. Slee was contacting contractors to see if he could find somebody that was available and willing to come tear it down, but so far we haven't found anybody.
Well, I guess let's proceed on with getting rid of it before we sell it. Yes,
I would, one of the factors in burning that is also you have to notify the neighbors what you're gonna do, and there's also a permit that goes along with that. This thing is in the middle of town, it's gonna be quite smoky. Again, I don't know for sure that we'll be able to burn it. I would continue with the demolition survey or whatever you're gonna call it, looking for somebody to tear it down.
yes.
Like I say, being right in the middle of town, that's gonna be another hurdle we'll have to get over.
I think as we pointed out, we've taken action on that before. Or do you need any further action on that, Mayor?
No.
Good. Any other comments in regard to this?
Should I let this committee know what was decided on the school roof project, just as
Yeah, very
a
good.
bit of an update? We ran into an issue on the middle school roof project that we had initially not had the gym roof as a part of that project because it felt like it had been put on not too long ago and there wasn't any leakage issues with it. The roofer that's putting it on has decided that some of the leakage is possibly coming from a parapet wall, and they're recommending to go ahead and roof the entire building, including the gym roof. What we worked out last night with the school board is that the money that was in the contingency money should be enough or almost enough to cover the cost of doing that, so that the whole middle school roof would be done, including the gym. So they didn't need approval from us because we had approved the roof project. It's not requiring other funds. If it does, the school board's going to pay for it. So they're going to proceed with doing that. The crew, while the crew's here and deployed, they can do it much less than if we have to call them to come back a few years from now. And the biggest concern we had was you've roofed the whole building, so if you have a leak, it's all on them. They can't say, well, it's coming from somewhere else. So it's pretty well decided to just let them go ahead and proceed with doing that.
Good idea.
So I think that's been taken care of, but I want the commission to understand the what and why that came forward.
Did I miss the talk about not doing the gym? I thought when he said to re-roof was to re-roof.
Well, it was brought up in that discussion, because I brought up, are you doing the gym? And they said, no, it's just the school room part, because the gym was a newer roof. They didn't feel like they had any leaks with it yet. So what they think, it's not leaking from the roof as much as it's leaking from the wall, the parapet wall, the top, the sides of that brick wall is infiltrating and coming in. So this will go over the parapet wall. The new roof will go completely over the parapet wall. So if it is leaking in there, there's no way for it to get in on it.
I must have missed it.
Yeah. But it was questioned. I do know it came up in conversation. Did it include the gym? And we were told it didn't. And I don't think it was anybody's intention then to do the gym. They didn't feel like they needed to. But after the roofers got in there and looking at it, they felt like that a lot of the water infiltration was coming from that part. Although it's not coming through the roof, it's the area around the scuppers and the way a hard rain will dam up at the wall and leak in the wall and come back down through the wall. So they're wanting a roof over all of that. So it's not costing anything other than we're not gonna get money back that we thought we might get back from contingency funds, and that we're not gonna have to appropriate more money. The bond issue was it. And they've saved some money on contingencies that they thought some gas lines were gonna have to be moved and some things like that that wound up not having to be moved. So they feel like they're gonna have enough money in what was appropriated to go ahead and do it as well.
And it's a school board decision, they don't need.
It is a
action
school board
for us.
decision. The way the loan was written, the way the resolution was written, it was for a project to put a roof on Jim B. middle school roof. And even though this was not a part of that original project, it's still a roof at the middle school. It's not, you're not taking these and putting it on a roof on this building. It's still a part of that campus. So the comptroller's office reached out to them, got a letter from them saying that, you know, it didn't specifically say how many square footage of roof on what part of the building. It just said the roof at that building. So it was okay to be able to use those funds that way. So it would be a school board decision.
Anyone else have any comments on putting the school board putting the roof on the gymnasium there? All right, we'll move on. Are there any public comments tonight from any of our members of the public? Mr. King?
The only one.
All right, well, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Muller makes the motion to adjourn, and we have a second. Mr. Buckmaster makes a second, so we stand adjourned.
We need to put these
Now,
up.
we've got an economic development committee meeting right after this, so we'll put them up later tonight, I guess.